Hello everyone, welcome to the Princeps Games studio. Today we're going to talk about our new wargame that is coming to Kickstarter on October 24th this year. The game is the Battle of Khalkhin Gol, the border clash between Japan and the Soviet Union at the beginning of the World War II in summer 1939. The reason why we are making this video is to give you a glimpse of what's going on in this game. This game has pretty much the same system as our previous game, Freezing Inferno, which was on Kickstarter last year, and now we are moving from cold north to the warm east. This game has some unique characteristics and unique systems that we would like to show you, so you would know what to expect. Okay, before I start, I would just like to point out that this is a prototype version of the game, so these components will look better in the final version. I would like to give you some introduction to the historical aspect of the game. Since the battlefield at the Khalkhin Gol river was around 50 times 50 kilometers, aircraft were used, but as you know, aircraft has a much bigger range than 50 kilometers. So using the airfields and air units, same as in our previous game, Freezing Inferno, would make no sense. So we decided to create a new system which will decide which player has the air superiority over the battlefield for every round. Air units, bombers and fighters are not on the board, but are used at the beginning of each round to determine which player has air superiority in that round. Every player has Airbase strength card, as you can see on this video, those cards contain information about the strength of the player's airbase, which is from 1 to 7. At the beginning of the game, that strength is 7, so we will put a marker on it to indicate that the airbase strength is 7. We will do the same for the Soviet player. The airbase strength card showed the number of bombers available at the start of the game. Each player have 12 bombers available at the beginning, so we will put these small markers on them. Number of fighters available at the start of the game. Every player has 14 fighters available, so we will mark those here. Number of anti-aircraft guns available at the start of the game. We'll use these markers for the Japanese player and these markers for the Soviet player. And at last, there are a combat result table for air attacks on every card. In addition, every player has air battle cards, which are numbered from 0 to 8. Those are the Japanese cards, and those are Soviet cards. Air battle phase has two steps. First step is to determine which player has air superiority over the battlefield. To do that, players use air battle card. And players use the first player token. In order to determine which player has the first player token, player will roll a dice and a higher number will get you the first player token. Instead of rolling a dice, players have their cards. Every player will choose a number from 0 to 8 and it will place it face down. The Soviet player will do the same. So let's say those were the choices of the players. The cards are revealed simultaneously. As you can see, the Japanese player has a 4 and the Soviet player has a 6. Those numbers determine which row in the combat result table which be looked upon. So a Soviet player has a 6, we'll look for row 6. Japanese player has a 4, we will look for row number 4. Now, you see there are columns here in the combat result table. So which column will be used is determined in a way that you add your airbase strength with the number of your fighters. At the start of the game, those numbers are the same. 7 plus 14 is 21. So both players will look this column, 20 to 21. When we do a cross-reference, we will see that the Japanese player has row 4 with the cross-reference 21 has a result of 10. The Soviet player has a row 6 with this cross-reference with 2021 has the result 12. Right now, the first step is over because Japanese player has 10, Soviet player has 12. Soviet player has the advantage. Okay, let's say that the Soviet player has the first player token. Right now the Soviet player has the advantage. He has a 12 while the Japanese has a 10. There are several options here. The Soviet player can choose not to play additional card, and the Japanese player can choose not to play additional card also. In this way, the Soviet player would win and gain air superiority for that round. The other option is Soviet player will pass, will not play additional card because he's winning right now, and the Japanese player decides to play additional card and try to win the air superiority. The Japanese player is playing card number 7. This card is revealed right away and put face up. This number from the second card is added to the result from the cross-reference. So in this system, in this occasion, 10 plus 7 equals 17. Japanese now has 17 and the Soviet player has 12. Now the Soviet player can choose whether he wants to play additional card also and try to compete and beat the Japanese, but since the maximum number is 8 and 7 is a very valuable card, the Soviet player can choose not to do that and let the Japanese win for this round. The Japanese, even they have won this round, they used 2 cards, so that means that have 1 card less until the end of the game. That brings the advantage to the Soviets, which will try to exploit that until the end of the game. After this, those battle cards are discarded and they are not used until the end of the game. Since the Japanese player has won the air battle and has won the air superiority for that round, the Soviet player reduces 1 fighter. So instead of 14, the Soviet player will now have 13 fighters left. The player who has won air superiority for that round now have 3 options how to exploit that superiority. Number 1 is to attack the enemy supply lines. That means that the enemy will have less money to buy new reinforcements until the end of the game. Option number 2 is to attack the enemy's air base to reduce its strength. You see here that maximum number of airbase strength is 7. Every strength brings the number of aircraft which the base can hold. At the beginning of the game, the base can hold 35 aircraft, which is bombers plus fighters, if the airbase strength is 7. If you reduce the air strength to 6 or even to 5, the maximum number will fall down to 25. So if the player has more than 25 aircraft, he will have to reduce the fighters or bombers to accommodate that number. And player has option number 3, that is to get a +1 attack modifier for every ground unit which will attack the enemy during the battle phase on the board. So whether it's infantry, tank, artillery or cavalry, the player can choose one particular battle and add +1 modifier to their attack. The Soviet player, as the defending player, has an option to choose whether those 3 anti-aircraft guns will use to defend his airbase or to defend the supply lines. Let's say the Soviet player has chosen to put 2 anti-aircraft guns to defend the supply lines and 1 anti-aircraft gun to defend their airbase. The attack on enemy supply lines is conducted with enemy bombers. Since the Japanese player has the air superiority, he will be attacking. Right now the Japanese player has 12 bombers and he will use 12 bombers to attack Soviet supply lines. During the attack on the supply lines, the defending player only defends are their AA guns assigned to protect the supply lines. When the attack on the supply line occurs, the defending player rolls 1 d8 die for every anti-aircraft gun. A roll of 1 or 2 means that the attacking bomber has been hit and the attacking player will adjust the number of bombers on their airbase strength card. We said that the Soviet player has 2 AA guns defending their supply lines, so we will roll d8 dice twice. Okay, number 6, nothing, and number 2. Okay, we have a hit, and now the Japanese player loses a bomber. This is adjusted on the Japanese airbase strength card and the bomber is moved to 11. Okay, the Japanese player has 11 bombers and that represent his air strength during the attack on supply lines. That means that we will look at the column with the number 11. Now we have to determine which row will apply in this attack. To do that, we will have this d8 dice and we will roll the dice, and depending on which round of the game it is, we will apply a certain row. This is done in the following way. You see that you have red, yellow and green color here. What this means? This means that as the game progresses, the damage on the supply lines also is getting bigger. So in the first two or in the round 2 or 3, only rows 1 to 4 can apply. In rounds 4 to 6, rows 2 to 5 will apply, which is marked in yellow, and in rounds 7 and 8, rows 3 to 6 will apply, which is marked with the green color. So you notice that in every situation you have 4 numbers which will apply. In order to decide which of those 4 numbers will apply, the Japanese player as an attacking player will roll a die, d8 die. And for every 2 numbers you will apply 1 row of this combat result table. So let's say if a player rolls 1 or 2, number 1 row will apply. If they roll 3 or 4, number 2 row will apply. If they roll 5 or 6, number 3 row will apply, and if they roll number 7 or 8, number 4 row will apply. So we'll just roll a dice now. Okay, we got number 6, which means that currently number 3 row will apply. We'll do a cross-reference number 3 with the column 11 and we'll get number 3. This number is then multiplied by 2, so we will get 6, and that is how many political points or money, in this case, the Soviet player will lose. Okay, now we have option 2, attack on enemy airbase. The Japanese player has 10 bombers at their disposal. That is the strength of Japanese attack. So we will look for a column number 10 in the combat result table. The Soviet player has its defense. The defense, in the case of an attack on the airbase strength, is airbase strength 5 plus the number of AA guns defending the airbase. Right now it is 1, so 5 plus 1 equals 6. We will look for column number 6 for the Soviet player. Before the bombers conduct their attack, the Soviet player rolls a d8 in order to see if he will get 1 or 2 and maybe hit one Japanese bomber. We roll a die, it's number 7, so it's a miss. The Japanese player continues the attack with 10 bombers. Now, the Soviet player and the Japanese player will both roll a d8 die to determine which row will apply in this combat result table. Let's say the Japanese player rolled 6, which means row number 6 cross-reference with the column number 10 equals 5. The Japanese result is 5. Let's say the Soviet player rolled number 7, and the row 7 will apply. With the column 6, it's cross-reference, it's a number 4. Right now, Japanese has won the battle. What is the consequence of Soviet loss? Okay, so the Soviet player has reduced its airbase strength to 4 and a number of bombers to 9 and number of fighters to 11. This also means that in the next round, in the air superiority phase, their air strength will be 4 plus 11 equals 15. So that means he will fall from this column 16 to 70 to column 15, and he will have lower chances to win air superiority in that round. This is why attack on an air base has a double effect. You can lower the chances of the opponent to gain air superiority in the next round, plus he will reduce his bombers, so he will have less chance to attack your airbase strength or to attack your supply lines. If player chooses option 1 or option 2, they can also choose to use these air strike cards. Each player has 7 cards at their disposal, and they can use only 1 card per round. These cards bring some advantage to your air force or disadvantage to the enemy's air force or to the enemy's airbase strength. So players can choose whether to use it or just to skip these cards and move to the next phase. Okay, now we have option number 3, that's to use +1 attack modifier in any battle on the board, which we talked about it earlier. Those are 3 options that the player who gained air superiority in that round have. Our advice is to use attack on supply lines, because as the game progresses, and you can see here, the damage your bombers can do to supply line is bigger, and the opponent player will lose more political points, so he will have less sources to buy reinforcement, and eventually he wouldn't be able to match your troops, and he will lose the game. So you can choose to do whatever you want depending on your strategy, but this is our advice. Okay folks, this was a short tutorial about air battle system in our new game, the Battle of Khalkhin Gol. Once again, the game will be on Kickstarter on October 24th this month, and please subscribe so you can get notification and support our campaign. We are happy to answer any questions you have, so you can leave them in the comments. And until the next time, we say hello from Princeps Games. Bye!